Okay, it's Saturday now, and I still feel this way. So this is gonna be different than my normal videos where I give my impressions of something I've been using and give you guys a feel for at least how the technology works for an average person. This is it has to do with what happened on Tuesday. And I think what happened on Tuesday is systemic of a much greater problem. And what I'm talking about is the Electoral College. The Electoral College, and it's one of the things I've had a large problem with. It's right up there with Citizens United. The Electoral College is made up of ex-politicians and friends of politicians and appointed people by unknown forces, at least not well published, and they make decisions. And this last election, again, they went against the will of the people, and apparently this has been 80 plus times they've done this. And that is not democracy. That is more of a plurality. And a plurality is if you have 5 candidates and one of them gets 25% of the vote, that person moves on. But that means 75% of the people didn't feel that that was the right choice. This is a problem. Now, granted, politics aren't easy, and finding solutions are not easy, but you need to recognize problems when you see them. When Citizens Unite came about, they said, well, it made logical sense. And if you follow the rules on paper, it does. But if you're following the rules on paper, then you don't need judges to make decisions. You can just follow the rules on paper. The human element is put in place to countermand what would seem like a good decision on paper, but realistically, when you look down the hallway of time, you can see the problems it's going to cause. You can see the elements that were not put on paper, because nothing is always on paper. Not all. When you design something, you don't remember everything. You don't pull in everything, which is why you have to change as you go. And that's why we have people in place, because you may have not thought about something. So when Citizens United came in, it said that an immortal corporation could act as an entity, and that entity is allowed to contribute money. Of course, my response to that is that entity isn't accountable and can't go to jail. So not that jail is the litmus test for this, but that's just a clear, easy response. If it doesn't have to live with its decisions and suffer the consequences of bad choices, then why should it be able to participate in a process that's designed for us bare mortals? So Trump becoming president, is he going to be the world's best president? I highly doubt that. Is he going to be the worst? I don't know. Are we going to be in? It's been tossed around. This may even bring about a civil war, which would be one way to facilitate change. California's talked about separating. If any, like Texas has been saying it for a long time, but the reality is Texas is in the position to do it. California is, I think, I remember reading that if you were to base it on economies alone, California represents the sixth largest economy in the world. They have a great number of resources. And to be honest, if they did become their own country, I'd probably petition to become a citizen. So, what I think is going to happen? Well, I think that Trump has Trump in his heart, and I think that you're going to see rule changes that maybe seem innocuous on the surface, but they're designed to help out his corporation. Perhaps his children will become electoral college members. I don't know. He had mentioned he wanted to put his sister on the Supreme Court. It's going to be, well, it's going to be different. It's going to be very different. I really, really hope that things go better than they're probably going to go. I think the precedent of selecting him, or I'm sorry, the Electoral College electing him, because of his history, because not just the grabbing of, granted, I am not a fan of assaulting women, but like over in Ireland. He destroyed a one-of-a-kind estuary that only doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, and he bullied people and just did terrible, terrible things to get them out of the way, to build a golf course, and it wasn't even finished. And that one-of-a-kind estuary is gone. And you're like, well, I'm a super capitalist. Why do I care? And that's a fair question. It is. There are things that happen in this world that I don't care about. But everything in this planet has a reason or a purpose for being. And I'm not being like, oh, we must allow it to all be in place. No, this is self-interest. The Zika virus, or Zika, sorry, the Zika virus. There's something in the environment that was probably bowled over for cattle land that lives with Zika, and the Zika doesn't affect it because it's got a natural defense. But because that defense creature, that host is gone, that permanent resource cannot be gotten back. If it is actually gone, you are going to have a hard time finding a solution to it. It's going to cost huge amounts of money. You're going to see a huge problem, and that is why you have to be careful when you come across one-of-a-kind zones, because usually they house a wealth of genetic material or a wealth of historic material, and they tell you how to deal with problems. Otherwise, you're searching through 5 billion codes of genetic arrangement to try and find the one thing that prevents the Zika from turning your children into something you'd rather they not be. And that is why you're careful about your ecosystem, in a nutshell. I find that people who are very focused, and granted, by argument, Trump has been fairly successful. Of course, if you gave me $1 million to start off, I'd probably do pretty well myself. But, you know, I find that anyone who doesn't look at the whole picture, they tend to cut out a lot of things that are important later. You know, some things you can get back, some things you can solve. Not everything. So, you know, in a nutshell, if I was going to look in my crystal ball, I think the Trump family and organization are going to do very well here. I'm not convinced about the rest of us. You know, I'm also not convinced that a civil war isn't going to happen. And part of me wonders, is that a good thing? Maybe it's not going to be a flat-out civil war. I mean, I don't think you're going to see red and blue and the South will rise again. But it might be like a civil Cold War. And also the entire House and Senate are Republicans. I'm not even sure why the Democrats are there anymore. It would seem like you'd almost mandate that it must be an equal proportion to force people to work together if you insist on a two-party system. But those are all far-reaching concepts and far-reaching things that I'm not bringing this about. My main problem here is, my main thesis, if you will, is that the Electoral College, a relic out of the late 1700s, early 1800s, is a cancer to the process, to the failure of what we think is democracy. And I really need to get it off my chest. I don't know how many more times it can just go the opposite direction of the will of the people before people realize their vote doesn't count. And if you voted one way and the Electoral College voted that way, it is by happenstance that your vote has the illusion that it counted. Okay, this was a bummer of a video, but it's really more for me, I guess, than anything else. And I'll get back to reviewing stuff, and I'll try and make it more interesting. So, I hope we have brighter days ahead of us, all of us.